Look closely at your life for just a moment. Not the story you tell about it, not the logic you use to justify it, but the patterns, the coincidences, the repeated experiences, the timing that sometimes feels too precise to be random. These aren't accidents, they're signatures of a system responding to you. And today we're not going to dance around the truth, we're going straight into it. You are living inside a construct, not imaginary, not symbolic, but an intelligent field that reacts to consciousness. The matrix isn't a metaphor for society or conditioning. It's the most accurate model we currently have for understanding how reality behaves. You don't walk through a fixed world. You walk through an interface that renders itself according to your internal state. Everything you experience, opportunities, obstacles, relationships, outcomes, is built from the frequency you stabilize. And that frequency isn't mystical, it's measurable in your assumptions, your identity, your emotional set point, the narratives you rehearse, the perspectives you refuse to challenge. You broadcast constantly, and the field never stops listening. Here's the part that shakes people. Your consciousness isn't trapped in your skull, it's entangled with every mind on this planet. That's why ideas spread globally overnight. That's why you think of someone and they call you. That's why cultural shifts happen simultaneously across continents. Consciousness is networked. We are co-authoring this simulation together. But here's the kicker. The vast majority of people co-author unconsciously. They feel the field fear, security, limitation, learned helplessness. And the field reflects it back as global instability, cultural fragmentation, and systems that appear immovable until someone wakes up to the mechanics and begins altering the signal at its source. That someone is you, if you choose it. You don't escape the matrix by stepping out of it. You escape by remembering you're not just inside the system, you're influencing it from within. And once you understand this, nothing about your reality stays the same.
Let's go deeper, because understanding the mechanics intellectually is only one step. You need to feel what's actually happening beneath the surface of your life. You have never had a thought that was entirely your own. Not because you lack originality, but because thought itself is a shared field. Every mind is a receiver and a transmitter, picking up signals from the collective unconscious. This is why creativity blooms in clusters, why discoveries emerge in multiple places at once, why movements ignite globally with no central coordination. Consciousness moves through all of us simultaneously. Jung called this the collective unconscious, but what we're talking about goes beyond psychology. This is a live network, a psychic internet where every shift you make internally ripples outward. When you dissolve a fear, you weaken that fear in the collective. When you expand into a new identity, you open that identity as a possibility for others. Your evolution isn't local, it's contagious. And the field speaks back. It speaks through synchronicity, those repeating numbers you keep seeing, the bizarre timing that lines events up perfectly. Those uncanny coincidences that feel like winks from the universe. And they're none of those things. They're feedback. They're the simulation acknowledging your shift in frequency. They're evidence that you've stepped into a different timeline. But most people ignore these signals. They override them with logic. They dismiss them as chance. And in doing so, they miss the single most important truth about reality. Your inner world instructs the outer world. Identity leads, reality follows. And when you shift who you are being, not what you're wishing for, not what you're trying to manifest, but who you are in your thoughts, emotions, and self concept, the field recalibrates around that version of you. And it's not gradual, it's structural. Reality bends to identity, always.
If you really want to understand the matrix, you have to stop thinking of it as an external cage and start recognizing it as a response architecture, a dynamic field structured entirely around consciousness. That means the world you see every day isn't happening in front of you, it's happening through you. It's emerging from your assumptions, your identity, and your emotional patterns like a projection. Here's the part that challenges even seasoned reality creators. Reality doesn't respond to what you desire, it responds to what you stabilize. You can want abundance, but if your identity is organized around lack, the simulation reflects lack back. You can crave connection, but if your inner world rehearses abandonment or unworthiness, your experiences will confirm those scripts. You can visualize success all day long, but if your subconscious self concept contradicts it, the field will follow the deeper signal, not the surface wish. That is why people feel stuck. They're trying to change the mirror instead of changing the one who's standing in it. The observer effect proves that consciousness influences matter. But let's strip away the scientific jargon and look at what this means in lived experience. Whatever you consistently observe within yourself becomes the blueprint for what the field renders around you. Identity is the true creative force. Emotion is the amplifier. Assumption is the stabilizer. Attention is the steering wheel. When you align these internal elements, even for a short time, reality begins reorganizing in ways that seem impossible until you experience them firsthand. It looks like luck, synchronicity, divine timing, intuition, or manifestation. But those are just different faces of the same mechanism. The field responding to your state. And here's where we push the envelope. Your identity isn't just shaping your life, it's influencing the collective matrix. Every time you elevate your consciousness, you broadcast coherence into the grid. You soften the density around others. You make awakening easier for people that you'll never meet. And that's why individual breakthroughs often precede cultural shifts. Consciousness upgrades one node at a time, but each upgraded node changes the intelligence of the entire network. Think about that. Your personal evolution is not personal, it's planetary. So when you commit to becoming the highest expression of yourself, you're not just changing your timeline, you're changing humanity's trajectory, one identity shift at a time.
Let's talk about the collective field, not in theoretical, mystical terms, but in a way that reveals how deeply you're already participating in it. The collective consciousness isn't an abstract spiritual idea, it's an active, measurable phenomenon. Research labs tracking random number generators have recorded global coherence spikes during major world events. Meditation groups have lowered crime rates. Emotional resonance across populations has altered the behavior of physical systems. So, in other words, thoughts don't stay inside your head. Your emotional state doesn't stop at the edge of your skin. Your identity isn't contained within your personal timeline. You are influencing the collective reality, whether you know it or not. And this is where your power becomes undeniable. Most people feed the field with unconscious patterns. They feed it with fear, scarcity, anxiety, doubt. They don't realize that every unresolved belief becomes part of a larger equation humanity is solving together. But when you wake up, when you actually understand that consciousness is causal, you begin to withdraw your energy from narratives that no longer align with who you are becoming. And then something extraordinary happens when you do. The simulation begins to destabilize in your favor. Old timelines collapse, old dynamics stop repeating. People treat you differently, opportunities rearrange themselves. The world literally becomes more malleable because you stopped reinforcing the version of it you no longer consent to live in. Awakening isn't about transcending this world, it's about reclaiming authorship within it. And once you reclaim authorship, you stop being intimidated by the collective field and begin influencing it instead. You stop projecting your fears outward and start projecting your coherence. You stop waiting for the world to change and start noticing how often the world begins changing in response to the micro shifts in your own consciousness. And this is why your presence matters more than your actions. Your state speaks louder than your words. Your identity shapes the energetic environment around you. When you walk through the world aligned, grounded, and coherent, you alter the field for everyone you encounter. You create a pocket of possibility in a grid that often feels rigid. People don't know why they feel calmer or clearer around you, and they don't need to. You're transmitting coherence into the matrix simply by existing in a conscious state. And that is influence, that is leadership, that is awakening in motion. And whether you choose it consciously or unconsciously, you are doing it right now.
And here's the part most people never grasp. The matrix doesn't respond to what you think or what you think you want. It responds to who you are in the quiet places no one sees. The identity you inhabit when you're alone, the assumptions you return to, the emotional frequency you settle into when you stop performing for the world. That's the signal the field reads. That's the version of you that the stimulation builds reality around. And once you understand that, the entire game changes. You stop negotiating with circumstances. You stop begging the universe for signs. You stop waiting for proof of your power, because the proof isn't out there. It's in the way reality begins bending the moment you shift state. Let me put it plainly. The simulation isn't testing you, it's echoing you. Every delay, every repetition, every stuck point you experience is not an external blockage. It's a reflection of the identity that you're currently stabilizing. Not your potential identity, not your wished for identity, your lived one. The one you embody in your beliefs, emotions, and assumptions. So when people ask, why isn't my manifestation working? They're really asking, why is my identity contradicting my intention? And the answer is always the same. You cannot create a reality that you don't believe yourself to be worthy of. Not because the universe is moral, but because the field mirrors what you accept as self. That is why the most radical act you can take is not visualizing a different life. It's becoming the version of you who naturally lives that life. When you stabilize that identity internally, the simulation aligns almost unnervingly fast. The delays dissolve, the synchronicities multiply, the timeline shifts, because the field is no longer confused about who you are. And here's the revelation we need to land as we move into closing. When you change, truly change, the matrix changes for everyone around you. Your breakthroughs open pathways in the collective field. Your coherence sharpens the grid. Your expansions become something others unconsciously attune to. You're not awakening alone. You're dragging the timeline with you. And the world will not look the same once you step into who you really are.
And here's the truth most people sense but never articulate. Reality is not something happening outside of you. It's something happening because of you. The Matrix isn't a prison, it is a projection, a living interface. A mirror that doesn't show your face, it shows your state. And when you know that, really know that, you stop trying to escape the simulation and start learning how to move inside it with precision. The people who reshape their lives aren't the ones who work the hardest or think the most positively. They're the ones who take ownership of the field. They're the ones who stop waiting for permission to shift. They're the ones who recognize that consciousness is causal, and they begin treating their identity as the primary act of creation. Because your identity is not just your story, it's your broadcast, it's your spell, it's your code. And when you rewrite your code, the matrix doesn't argue, it updates. This is why the greatest illusion ever sold was that you are powerless. Powerless to your past, powerless to society, powerless to systems, powerless to the way things are. But that illusion was necessary to keep the field coherent while humanity was learning. But it's not necessary anymore. That phase is over. You are not the one of 8 billion insignificant minds lost in the noise. You're one of 8 billion signal generators capable of altering the collective field. Every time you choose coherence over chaos, you strengthen the grid. Every time you choose possibility over fear, you open new timelines. Every time you choose identity over circumstance, you bend the simulation a little further. And this is what it means to awaken. It is not to float above reality, but to enter it fully, consciously, skillfully, to wield the mechanics instead of being shaped by them. So here is the shockwave truth I need you to leave with tonight. The matrix bends for the awake. Not because you've earned it, not because you're special, not because some cosmic force rewards good behavior, but because the simulation cannot override the identity you fully embody. You are not a character in this world. You are not a passenger on this timeline. You're not a seeker trying to find the truth. You are the architect. You are the signal. You are the consciousness the matrix is built to respond to. And once you accept that, the old version of reality dissolves and the new one begins generating itself around you. Not later, not someday, but right now. Because you are awake and the world you walk into after this moment cannot be the same.
If this conversation stirred anything in you, if it pulled at the edges of what you know to be true about yourself and this reality, then stay with us. These explorations are only the beginning. Every time we open a doorway in consciousness, we step into a wider field together. So if you found value here, share it. Let it ripple through your world the same way your consciousness ripples through the field. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Not because we're chasing numbers, but because what we're building here is a network of awake minds. and every awakened signal strengthens the grid. Until next time, think differently, dream boldly, and create consciously.
I'm a quiet rebel, I don't need a shout. Changing the world from the inside out. No fists in the